this all set up as last year was the last episode I tried to record on the books I read during the quarantine, but I just realized how burdensome it was for me for some reason. I don't know. But in this episode of my vlog, we'll be talking about the books I read during the quarantine. Starting off with one of my most favorite, of course. Oh my god. It's called Patron Saints of Nothing. Patron Saints of Nothing is a very interesting read because it's a fiction, but it is about Philippines' political war on drugs. Kind of Manila noir story. So the protagonist is named Jay, and he finds out that his cousin was killed because of the war on drugs of Duterte's administration. And since he's an American citizen and he's not able to visit Philippines, he made sure to find out the mystery behind his cousin's death. It doesn't only talk about, the political climate of the Philippines, it also talks about how Filipinos or Phil-Ams act towards what happens to the country. Though it is fiction, it has some non-fiction reality, that's kind of redundant. Non-fiction elements to it, where Ribay creates some sort of story that takes us as if it were true. If basically you're a fan of F.H. Batacan's Smaller and Smaller Circles, it's kind of the same, but of course with a different plot. But it talks about, these books talk about, of course, the Philippine setting. It's quite amazing because most fiction books that I read, especially crime and based on reality kind of stories, there are few in a Philippine setup, and this is amazing. And this book is, I think, available in Shopee or fully booked. This is a very interesting read, and of course this is a promise of no spoilers, so I give it a 8.5 out of 10. The second book I finished is, of course, Marilu's Skyhunter. It's kind of now a series, and I think the sequel is also revealed in her Twitter account. This is a sci-fi novel. So the plot of this book is very amazing because it's between two nations called Carenza and Mara. So these are fictionalized nations, but the Carenza Federation or the Carenza nation has the ultimate power because they have already colonized all nations except for Mara, which is of course where our protagonist belongs into. And these people are called strikers because they fight for their freedom, and they fight the enemies that they call ghosts, which was later on produced by, of course, the Carenza Federation. This is a very interesting read because it's like Divergent series in a way, wherein it creates some sort of class divide as well. But to give, of course, a review which is spoiler free, I'm not going to go into details. So basically, the protagonist named Talin, she kind of discovers a new way to infiltrate the enemy line by meeting someone from the other side. This is the first book by Marilu, which I read in this year. And this book as well has a sequel. She announced on her Twitter page. I think it's entitled Stormtrooper or something like that. But then again, I'll give this book a 9.5 out of 10 just because of how it made me realize so many things when it comes to why I love sci-fi books. And it only begins in a way wherein I understand some sort of a connection to all her books. So I'm a big fan of Marilu as well. It's also kind of like Attack on Titan if you're a fan of that anime, wherein kind of it's a battle between Marley and Eldia, and it's kind of like class divide as well, wherein the protagonists don't know what the Titans' agenda was at the time, kind of like that. And funnily enough, some characters are also named as similar to, of course, the names in Attack on Titan, like of course Aramin. There's a name called Aramin here, which is weird. Anyway, the third I read is of course Haruki Murakami's Killing Commendatore. It's one of the best books I have read during the quarantine, just because it was it's just Haruki Murakami. He's my favorite author, and this book was an amazing read. To summarize the plot of the story, it's about a middle-aged man who is, of course, a portrait artist who is divorced and was kind of forced to live in solitude. As he lives in solitude, he discovers that his house was, of course, owned by one of the most famous painters as well in Japan. And, well, he discovers his masterpiece, which was not released, named Killing Commendatore. And this portrait, this painting, I should say, it opened some sort of, well, mysterious circumstances towards whoever touches it or interacts with it. And then he meets his neighbor, who is resembling some sort of a Great Gatsby character, and he meets Gatsby in that manner. But in this book, it's named Menshiki, and this character named Menshiki became a part of his life because he wanted him to paint a portrait of him as well. And as he lived in solitude, he also wanted to make money, of course, so that he can pay the rent for his house on the top of the hills. He kind of became a painter assistant, or a teaching painter, or a art teacher. And of course, as being an art teacher, he meets a very young girl who also kind of makes him remind of his sister who died due to a disease. And as he meets the 50-year-old man that resembles kind of a mystery, he also wanted to paint him. So the story of Killing Commendatore revolves around these three characters: the unnamed protagonist, Menshiki, and the little girl. And it's one of the most interesting stories Haruki Murakami has made, because it's about I don't know how I can describe it. It's just really weird. It has some sort of magical surrealism in it, and it has a very weird ending as well. But to give a summary, I give it, of course, I think 9 out of 10 because of its story writing. It kept me up late till night, and it made me want to read more Haruki Murakami books. It's also worthy to note that I read philosophy books, but I think this will be for separate videos of philosophy subject-related topics or vlogs, because kind of long. They're kind of like I said, these books are kind of complicated to discuss in one video, so wait for the next videos to come. Since 2021 is the second season of the pandemic and this political climate that we have in the country, I decided to read more books, of course, as I finish the year ahead. Well, these books are, of course, for the next videos to come. So you can see similar genres. I have Junji Ito's Uzumaki. I have Rick and Morty's Rick and Morty and Philosophy. I have sci-fi, Children of Time. This is a very interesting read as well. Let me just alright. So, and again, I have Rick and Morty and Philosophy. It's titled as In the Beginning Was the Squanch. This is, of course, a gift by my girlfriend, and I thank you so much, Jessica, for this. I love you. And this is actually a series of pop culture and philosophy. And this is actually the last book, but it's very interesting. See, I already have notes in it. I also have, again, Haruki Murakami's what I talk about when I talk about running. Again, this was given by my girlfriend. Well, I borrowed it from her. It's a good read for self-help and of course, kind of like a self-motivation book. I also have Manila Noir. It's a collection of stories of Filipino contemporary artists, which is very amazing because there are also comics in here which are produced by Filipino artists as well, and stories that are created. I have Ryder Carroll's bullet journal. I'm reading it at the moment. It helps me, of course, keep track of the things that I want. I track my past, I order my present, and I design my future. Basically, because of the bullet journal. I also have, of course, Children of Time. This is a good read. Actually, I'm almost done reading it, but it's another sci-fi book that I will give a review in the next video. And classic, of course, Moby Dick. This is, of course, basically a requirement for us in high school. We have Junji Ito's Uzumaki, and of course, many more. So I hope you stay tuned for the next videos to come, and I apologize for how I look and how I explain things. I'm really just a beginner in these types of videos, but I hope you kind of enjoyed this video, and if you're still here, I thank you so much, and I hope you would watch my other videos. Thank you and have a nice day.